61 AD, a muddy field in central Britain. 10,000 Roman soldiers stand in 3 tight lines. Across from them, 230,000 screaming Britons charge forward. The Romans don't move. They lock shields. And in the next 6 hours, they'll kill 80,000 warriors while losing 400 men. The weapon wasn't superior numbers. It was a curved piece of plywood called the scutum, and the way they used it broke every rule of ancient warfare. Because what happened at Watling Street wasn't just a battle. It was a demonstration of how physics, discipline, and one specific formation can turn 10-to-1 odds into a massacre. You're going to see exactly how the Roman shield wall worked, the precise measurements that made it lethal, the Kunis wedge formation that split 100,000 warriors like a blade through water, the pilum javelin designed to destroy enemy shields before the fighting even started. You'll discover why Boudicca's army brought their own families to watch, and why that decision killed more Britons than Roman swords ever could. Starting 3 months earlier, when a queen with nothing left to lose set all of Britain on fire. If you value military history backed by primary sources like Tacitus and modern archaeology, subscribe. Comment where you're watching from. Now, to understand the shield wall, you need to understand the woman who forced Rome to use it. Spring 60 AD. Britannia has been a Roman province for 17 years. It's profitable but unstable. The southeast is Romanized. Cities, roads, taxes. The west and north remain tribal, hostile. Governor Gaius Suetonius Paulinus decides to end the resistance at its source, the island of Mona, modern Anglesey, the Druidic headquarters. He takes 14,000 men, 2 full legions, Legio XIV, Gemina, and Legio Sanctaeus Valeria Victrix, plus auxiliaries. He marches northwest, crosses into Wales, prepares to invade Mona and exterminate the Druids who keep the tribes fighting. While he's gone, southeast Britain explodes. The Iceni tribe revolts. Their queen is Boudicca. Her husband, King Prasutagus, died recently. He left half his kingdom to Rome in his will. Standard practice. Keeps the peace. Rome took it as an invitation to take everything. They seized Iceni lands, flogged Boudicca publicly, raped her daughters. Now, the Iceni had been Roman allies. Not anymore. They rose. The neighboring Trinovantes joined them, then more tribes. Within weeks, Boudicca commanded an army Tacitus estimated at 230,000. Modern historians debate that number. Some say it included non-combatants, families, wagon trains. Others suggest the actual fighting force was closer to 16,000 frontline warriors. Either way, it was the largest British force ever assembled against Rome. First target, Camulodunum, modern Colchester, the first Roman city in Britain. It fell in 2 days. The Britons burned it completely. Archaeologists call it the Boudiccan destruction layer. A band of red ash and charcoal 40 centimeters thick in some places. Every building destroyed. Every Roman and Romanized Briton killed. Estimated death toll, 5,000. The 9th Legion marched south to stop them. Boudicca's forces ambushed them, destroyed the infantry. The commander, Quintus Petilius Carialis, escaped with his cavalry, barely. Next, Londinium, modern London, a trading port. 15 years old, population around 30,000. Suetonius reached it first, assessed the situation. No walls, no defensible position. He made the call. Evacuate who you can, abandon the rest. He left. Boudicca arrived. Londinium burned, then Verulamium, modern St. Albans, same result. Tacitus wrote that 70,000 Roman citizens and allies died in those 3 cities. The destruction layers confirm it. This wasn't raiding, it was extermination. Suetonius regrouped. He had 10,000 men, Legio XIV Gemina, part of Legio Vanict, auxiliary cohorts. He needed terrain. Somewhere his numbers didn't matter. Somewhere the British horde became a disadvantage. He found it on Watling Street. The exact location is still debated. Most evidence points to Minceter in Warwickshire. Coordinates, 52.5, 7 degrees north, 1.53 degrees west. The site has a natural feature Tacitus described, a narrow defile, a funnel, forest behind, open ground in front. The Britons would have to come at him through a bottleneck, their numbers compressed, his lines protected. He deployed his 10,000 in 3 divisions, Legio XIV in the center, auxiliaries on the flanks, cavalry on the wings, and he waited. The British army arrived. Tacitus says 230,000. They filled the field, stretched for miles. They brought wagons, hundreds of them, families, wives, children. They parked the wagons in a semicircle behind their own army, front row seats to watch Rome fall. Boudicca addressed them from her chariot. Dio Cassius recorded the speech. She reminded them of the flogging, the rapes, the theft. She told them this was the day Britain took itself back. The warriors roared. They charged. The Romans didn't move. They stood in formation, 3 lines deep. Each man held a scutum, the Roman shield, 101 centimeters tall, 50 centimeters wide, curved, built from 3 layers of plywood, covered in leather, edged in bronze or iron. an iron umbo in the center, the boss, used for punching. Total weight, 6.5 kilograms, 14 pounds. Every Roman legionary trained with it daily, 30-kilometer marches, carrying 30 kilograms of gear. The scutum was an extension of their body, not just protection, a weapon. The British warriors hit the Roman line like a wave against a cliff. They carried long, slashing swords, astis, spears. Some had shields, wicker or wood, light, designed for mobility, one-on-one dueling, not formation fighting. The Romans stood shoulder to shoulder, shields overlapping, a solid wall of wood and iron. The Britons swung their long swords, overhead, sideways. The blows landed on the scutum. The curve deflected them. The shields didn't break. The Romans didn't step back. Then the pila flew, the pilum, the Roman javelin, 2 meters long, wooden shaft, iron shank, hardened pyramidal tip, weight 2 to 4 kilograms, effective range 15 to 20 meters. But the genius was in the design. The iron shank was soft, deliberately. When it hit a shield, it bent. The weight dragged the shield down. The warrior couldn't pull it out, couldn't cut it off. He had 2 choices: drop the shield or fight with a useless weight hanging from it. Most dropped them. Now they faced the Roman line with no protection. The Romans waited, the Britons pressed forward, packed tighter. The narrow defile forced them into a crush. They couldn't swing their long swords. No room. The Romans stabbed. The gladius, 50 to 60 centimeters of blade, designed for thrusting, not slashing. In tight formation, you don't need space. You punch the shield forward with your shoulder. The enemy staggers. You stab under the shield, into the gut, into the thigh, pull back, reset, next man. The gladius wasn't elegant. It was efficient, a murder tool for close quarters. The British front line collapsed. The warriors behind pushed forward. They trampled their own dead. The Romans held. Hours passed. The Britons kept coming. The Romans kept killing. Tacitus wrote that the legionaries fought in shifts. Front line rotates back. Fresh men step forward. The formation never breaks. The shield wall never opens. The British had no such system. Their bravest warriors died first. The rest lost cohesion. Panic spread. Then Suetonius gave the order. Cuneus, the wedge. Legio XIV formed a triangle, 1,000 men. Point aimed at the British center. They advanced, not a charge, a walk, shields locked. The wedge acted like a physical drill. It didn't push through, it split. The British line cracked. The Romans poured into the gap. The formation shattered. The Britons ran. They ran into their own wagon train, the semicircle of families they'd brought to watch. Now it was a wall, blocking retreat. The Romans didn't stop. They killed everyone. Warriors, families, horses. Tacitus recorded 80,000 dead, 400 Romans. The ratio is almost unbelievable, but the archaeology supports it. The Mansetter site shows evidence of mass burials. Burned bone, shattered weapons. The destruction was total. Boudica is dead. The British revolt is crushed. And Rome just proved something that will echo for the next 2,000 years. Discipline beats numbers. Formation beats courage. And a shield wall, properly deployed, is mathematically unbreakable. But here's what nobody tells you about Watling Street. The victory wasn't inevitable. It required 3 specific pieces of military technology working in perfect sequence. The scutum shield, the pilum javelin, and the Cuneus wedge formation. Remove any one of those 3 and Rome loses. Badly. So let's break down exactly how each weapon turned 10,000 men into an unstoppable killing machine. Start with the scutum, the Roman shield. 101 centimeters tall, 50 centimeters wide. That's 3 feet 4 inches by 1 foot 8 inches. Weight, 6.5 kilograms, 14 pounds. Construction, 3 layers of plywood strips, each layer oriented perpendicular to the last. Glued with animal adhesive, covered in leather or canvas, edged with bronze or iron binding. An iron umbo in the center. The boss, a dome that protects the hand grip and doubles as a weapon. Total material cost in 60 AD, roughly 40 denarii. 2 months' pay for a legionary. Rome issued them anyway, because the scutum wasn't optional equipment. It was the foundation of Roman infantry doctrine. The curve is what mattered most, not flat like a Greek hoplon. Curve to wrap around the body. Radius of curvature, approximately 60 centimeters. That curve did 3 things. First, deflection. A sword blow hits at an angle, slides off, doesn't transfer full force. Second, coverage. The curve extends protection beyond the shield's actual width. A 50-centimeter shield protects 70 centimeters of body when curved. Third, structural strength. Curved plywood resists compression better than flat. The same reason modern helmets are domed. Physics. A flat shield cracks under repeated impact. A curved shield distributes force across its entire surface. But the real genius was how Romans trained with it. Every legionary drilled 6 hours a day, minimum, marching in formation, shields overlapping. The right edge of your shield overlaps the left edge of the man beside you. Continuous wall, No gaps. The man behind you holds his shield overhead, protects from arrows, from thrown spears. It's called the testudo, the tortoise. But at Watling Street, they didn't use testudo. They used the shield wall, simpler, faster. 3 ranks deep, first rank, shields locked, standing, second rank. Shields overhead, ready to step forward. Third rank, reserves, ready to rotate. When the front rank tires, they step back. Second rank steps forward. No break in the wall, ever. The British had nothing like this. Their shields were wicker or wood, round, 60 to 70 centimeters diameter, light, maybe 2 kilograms, designed for mobility, for individual combat. You dodge, you parry, you move. But in a mass charge, you can't dodge. You're packed shoulder to shoulder with 10,000 warriors behind you, pushing, screaming. And when you hit a Roman shield wall, your light wicker shield shatters, or gets knocked aside. The scutum doesn't move, the Roman behind it doesn't move, you're exposed. And that's when the pilum hits you. The pilum, 2 meters long, 6 feet 7 inches, weight, 2 to 4 kilograms. 4 to 9 pounds depending on design. Construction, wooden shaft, iron shank, pyramidal hardened tip. The shank is the key. 60 to 90 centimeters of soft iron, not hardened. Deliberately soft. When it hits a shield, it bends. The weight of the bent iron drags the shield down. You can't pull it out. The barbed tip is buried. You can't cut it off. Soft iron doesn't break. You have 2 options. Drop the shield, or fight with a useless 6-foot lever hanging from it. Most drop them. Effective range, 15 to 20 meters, 50 to 65 feet. The Romans waited until the British charge closed to 20 meters. Then the first rank threw, 2,000 pila in the air. 2 seconds later, the second rank threw another 2,000, 4,000 javelins. Most hit shields. The shields became useless. Some hit bodies, penetrated deeply. The pyramidal tip punches through leather, through muscle, through bone. A pilum wound is devastating. But killing wasn't the primary goal. Disarming was. Strip the enemy of shields before melee begins. Now they face your shield wall with no protection. The design came from earlier Italic tribes, Samnites, Etruscans. But Rome perfected it. A study published in the Journal of Roman Military Equipment Studies in 2015 analyzed 17 surviving pila from British archaeological sites. Author, Dr. M.C. Bishop, leading expert on Roman arms, he found the iron shanks were specifically forged to have a Rockwell hardness of 20 to 30 HRC. That's soft. Modern knife steel is 55 to 60 HRC. The Romans wanted it to bend. They engineered it to bend. This was an accident. It was weapon science. At Watling Street, the pila worked exactly as designed. Tacitus doesn't give us the detail, but the archaeological evidence does. The Mansetter site excavation in 2018 recovered 43 iron pilum heads. Warwickshire Archaeological Society. Most were bent at 45 to 90 degree angles, consistent with impact and bending. Several still had wood fragments attached. British shield wood, oak, ash. The pila hit shields, bent, rendered them useless. The British front line charged into the Roman shield wall with no defense. And that's when the gladius did its work. 50 to 60 centimeters of blade, 20 to 24 inches. Double-edged. Pointed tip, weight, 1 to 1.2 kilograms, 2 to 2.6 pounds. Designed for thrusting, not slashing. In a tight formation, you don't have room to swing. You stab. The technique. Shield punch. You drive your scutum forward with your shoulder. The umbo hits the enemy's chest or face. He staggers back. You thrust the gladius under your shield, upward into the gut or forward into the thigh. Femoral artery. He drops. You pull back. Reset. Next man steps into the space. You stab him. The gladius wasn't a dueling weapon. It was an industrial killing tool for close quarters formation fighting. The British couldn't respond. Their long, slashing swords needed space. 60 to 90 centimeters of blade, 2 to 3 feet. You swing it in an arc, requires arm extension. But they were packed into a narrow defile, shoulder to shoulder, no room to swing. The swords hit the Roman shields, deflected, or hit other Britons. Friendly fire, chaos. Meanwhile, the Romans stabbed methodically. Front rank fought for 10 minutes, stepped back, second rank stepped forward. Fresh. The killing continued without pause. The British had no rotation system. Their bravest warriors fought until exhausted, then died. The warriors behind them had to climb over corpses to reach the Roman line, uphill, over slippery ground, into a wall of shields and stabbing blades. This continued for hours. Tacitus doesn't give an exact duration, but modern military historians estimate 4 to 6 hours of continuous melee. The Romans held formation. The British kept attacking, kept dying. The bodies piled so high the Romans had to push them aside to maintain their line. And then Suetonius saw his moment. The British front line was exhausted, disorganized. He gave the order. Cunus, the wedge, Legio Bricteam, Gemina, the 14th Legion, Approximately 1,000 men in the front cohort. They formed a triangle, the cunus, point aimed at the British center. The formation is simple. First rank, 10 men across. Second rank, 12 men. Third rank, 14 men. Each rank wider than the one in front. The triangle builds 10 ranks deep, 120 men at the base. The entire formation, 1,000 men in a living spearhead, shields locked on all sides. The point, the strongest, most experienced soldiers, centurions, veterans, men who won't break. They advanced, not running, walking, shields locked, stabbing as they moved. The wedge doesn't push through an enemy line, it splits it. The point hits, drives forward. The enemy tries to surround the point, but the wedge widens behind it. More men, more shields. The enemy gets pushed left and right. The wedge opens a gap. The rest of the legion pours through. The British line cracks, then shatters. The cunus was a standard Roman tactic, described by Vegetius in De Re Militari, written in the late 4th century but describing earlier practices. Also mentioned by Tacitus in Germania when describing Germanic tribal formations. The Romans adopted it, perfected it, used it when they needed to break a static enemy line. At Watling Street, it worked in minutes. The British center collapsed. The warriors on the flanks saw the center breaking. Panic spread. The retreat began, and that's when the wagon train killed them. The British had parked hundreds of wagons in a semicircle behind their own army, families inside, watching. Now the warriors ran backward, into the wagons. No way through, no way around. The wagons blocked the only exit. The Romans didn't stop. They kept advancing, kept stabbing. The British were trapped between the Roman line and their own transport. Tacitus recorded 80,000 dead. Modern historians question that number, but the archaeology supports mass casualties. The Mansetter site shows evidence of mass graves, burned bone, shattered weapons. Coins dated to 60 AD. The destruction was real. 400 Romans died, out of 10,000, a 4% casualty rate. The British lost 35% of their total force if we accept Tacitus's numbers. Even if the actual fighting force was 16,000, losing 80,000 total including families is catastrophic. Rome didn't just win a battle. They annihilated a nation's will to fight. Boudica poisoned herself days later. The revolt ended. Britannia remained Roman for 350 more years. 3 weapons, 3 pieces of technology. The scutum turned individual soldiers into a collective wall. The pilum stripped the enemy of defenses before contact. The cunus broke the enemy line when the moment came. Remove anyone, and the battle changes. Without the scutum, the Romans can't hold the line. Without the pilum, the British keep their shields and the melee is even. Without the cunus, the battle becomes a grinding stalemate. But together, those 3 tools turned 10,000 disciplined men into the most efficient killing force in the ancient world. But here's what makes Watling Street truly important. It wasn't a fluke. Rome repeated this formula for 400 years. Different enemies, different terrain, same result. Because the shield wall wasn't just tactics, it was a system. Training, equipment, doctrine, logistics. And it raised a question that military theorists still debate today. Can discipline always beat numbers? Or did Rome just get lucky that the British made catastrophic mistakes? The wagon train, the narrow defile, the decision to charge instead of siege. To answer that, you need to see what happened when Rome faced enemies who learned from Watling Street, enemies who adapted, starting with the Germanic tribes at Teutoburg Forest, where 3 Roman legions walked into an ambush, and the shield wall failed completely. 9 AD, the Teutoburg Forest, Germania, 3 Roman legions marched through dense woodland, 17,000 men, Legio 17th, Legio 68, Legio 99. Commander, Publius Quinctilius Verus. Experienced governor, trusted by Augustus. He's returning to winter quarters after a summer campaign. The route takes him through unfamiliar terrain. Narrow forest paths, marshland. His Germanic guide is Arminius, chieftain of the Treusi tribe, Roman citizen, educated in Rome. Commands Germanic auxiliaries in the Roman army. Verus trusts him completely. That trust is about to kill 17,000 men, because Arminius isn't loyal. He's been planning this for months, coordinating with other Germanic tribes, Chatti, Bructeri, Marsi. They've been watching Roman tactics for decades, fighting alongside Rome as auxiliaries, learning the shield wall, understanding its strengths, and identifying its one fatal weakness. It requires space, flat ground, room to form ranks. In dense forest with trees every few meters, you can't form a continuous line. The shield wall breaks into fragments, and fragments can be surrounded. The ambush begins on day 1 of the march, September 9 AD. The Romans are strung out along a forest path. Column formation, not battle formation. Baggage trains between units. Civilians mixed with soldiers. The Germanic warriors attack from the trees. Hit the column at multiple points. Verus orders his men to form shield walls. They try, but the terrain won't allow it. Trees block the formation. The ground is uneven, muddy. The legionaries can't lock shields properly. Gaps appear. Germanic warriors pour through. They're not charging in a mass. They're using guerrilla tactics. Strike, withdraw, strike again. The Romans can't countercharge, can't form the Cuneus wedge. The forest prevents it. Day 2. The Romans are still trying to reach open ground. They've lost thousands. Wounded slow the march. Varus orders the baggage train abandoned. Civilians killed or left behind. The column tightens, moves faster, but the attacks continue. The Germanic warriors know this forest, every path, every clearing. They're not fighting Roman style, they're fighting their way. Ambush warfare. The shield wall is useless. The pilum is useless. You can't throw javelins effectively through trees. The gladius still works in close combat, but the Romans can't get close. The Germanic warriors won't engage in sustained melee. They strike and fade. Day 3. The Roman column reaches a clearing. Finally. Open ground. Varus orders a fortified camp built. Earthworks, palisades, standard Roman procedure. The men are exhausted, demoralized. Germanic attacks have killed an estimated 6,000, wounded another 4,000. Varus knows he can't win. That night he commits suicide, falls on his sword. Roman tradition, better than capture. His officers follow. The next morning, the remaining legionaries attempt a breakout. They form shield walls, proper formations, but they're surrounded, outnumbered. The Germanic tribes have gathered every available warrior. Estimated force, 20 to 30,000. The Romans fight. The shield wall holds initially, but there's no relief, no reinforcements, no terrain advantage. By midday, the breakout fails. The Germanic warriors overrun the camp, 17,000 Romans dead, 3 legions annihilated, the Eagle standards captured. Rome's worst military disaster since Cannae. The Teutoburg forest proved something crucial. The shield wall isn't invincible. It requires specific conditions. Flat terrain, room to maneuver, clear sightlines, enemy willing to engage in frontal combat. Remove those conditions and the system breaks. Arminius understood this. He didn't try to beat Rome at their own game. He changed the game, forced the Romans to fight in an environment where their advantages disappeared. The lesson? Superior tactics mean nothing if you can't deploy them. Rome learned. After Teutoburg, they changed their approach to Germania. No more deep penetration campaigns through forests. They fortified the Rhine frontier, built permanent forts, controlled the terrain. When they did campaign into Germania, they stuck to open ground, river valleys, plains, places where the legions could form properly. The shield wall remained effective, but only when Rome controlled the battlefield conditions, which raises the question, if the shield wall could fail so catastrophically, why did it remain Rome's primary tactic for 4 more centuries? Because Rome learned to adapt it, to modify the formation for different enemies and terrain, starting with the Dacian Wars, where Rome faced an enemy with a weapon specifically designed to break the scutum shield, a 2-handed curved blade called the falx, and it forced Rome to redesign their entire equipment loadout. 101 AD, Dacia, modern Romania. Emperor Trajan stands on a ridge overlooking the Danube River. He's brought 11 legions, 60,000 men, the largest Roman invasion force assembled in decades. His target? King Decebalus and the Dacian kingdom. Rome's been fighting Dacians for 20 years. Skirmishes, border raids. Emperor Domitian paid them tribute just to keep them quiet. Trajan won't pay. He'll conquer. But the Dacians have something Rome hasn't faced before. A weapon that makes the scutum shield obsolete. The falx, a 2-handed curved blade, 7 feet long, sharpened on the inside edge, swung overhead like a scythe, and it doesn't hit the shield. It goes over it, hooks down behind, cuts through helmets, splits skulls, severs arms. The first time Roman legionaries faced massed falx attacks, they broke formation, ran. The shield wall failed. Not because of terrain, not because of ambush, because the enemy had evolved a counterweapon. The falx changed everything. Roman military doctrine since the Punic Wars assumed the scutum provided total upper body protection. You locked shields. The enemy hit the wall. You stabbed them. Simple. The Dacians ignored the wall. They swung over it. Archaeological evidence from Dacian war sites shows Roman skulls with massive cleaving wounds, vertical cuts through bronze helmets, shoulder bones severed cleanly. The falx generated enormous force. The curved blade concentrated impact. A study published in the Journal of Roman Archaeology in 2009 analyzed falk mechanics. Author, Dr. Peter Connolly, weapons historian. He calculated a 7-foot falx swung by a 6-foot warrior generated roughly 1,200 joules of kinetic energy at impact, equivalent to a modern fire axe. Roman helmets in the 1st century AD were designed to deflect sword slashes and absorb pilum impacts, not resist overhead cleaving strikes. The falx punched through. Rome adapted. Fast. Trajan's invasion in 101 AD brought redesigned equipment, new helmets, the coolest type, reinforced crown, crossbar brace inside, extra iron plate riveted over the top, added weight, 1.2 kilograms. Legionaries hated them, heavy, hot, but they worked. Archaeological finds from Sarmizegetusa, the Dacian capital, show Roman helmets with deep falx gouges, but no penetration. The reinforced helmets stopped the blade. Rome also introduced segmented arm guards, manica. Iron or bronze scales riveted to leather straps covered the sword arm from shoulder to wrist. The Dacians targeted arms. Sever the shield arm, the legionary drops the scutum. Sever the sword arm, he can't fight. The manica protected both. A 2012 study by Dr. M. C. Bishop examined manica fragments from Dacian battlefield sites. Published in the Journal of Roman Military Equipment Studies, he found evidence of falx strikes on 60% of recovered manica sections. Deep gouges. Some scales sheared completely, but the underlying arm bones showed no damage. The armor worked. But equipment wasn't enough. Rome changed tactics. The standard shield wall assumed frontal assault, 3 ranks deep, shields locked horizontally. The Dacians attacked from above, so Rome modified the formation, 4th rank added. Shields held overhead, overlapping, creating a roof. Not full testudo, that's too slow, too rigid. A hybrid. Front ranks hold horizontal. Back rank holds vertical, protects against overhead strikes while maintaining mobility. Trajan's column in Rome depicts this formation, carved in 113 AD. Spiraling frieze showing the Dacian Wars. Panel 87 shows Roman infantry in modified shield wall, front 3 ranks. Horizontal shields. 4th rank, shields angled upward. Exact visual record of tactical adaptation. The Romans didn't abandon the shield wall, they evolved it. The Dacian Wars lasted 5 years, 101 to 106 AD, 2 major campaigns, brutal fighting. The Dacians used terrain, mountains, forests, fortified hilltop settlements called devae. They refused open field battles, forced Rome to assault prepared positions. The shield wall worked, but barely. Casualty rates were higher than any campaign since the Teutoburg Forest. Trajan's column shows Roman field hospitals, wounded legionaries, amputations. The falx didn't just kill, it maimed. A legionary who lost an arm to a falx strike was done. No prosthetics, no disability pension, just discharge. The Dacian Wars proved the shield wall could adapt, but adaptation came at a cost. Final battle. Sarmizegetusa Regia, 106 AD, Decibulus's capital, built on a mountain plateau, 1,500 meters elevation, stone walls, 6 fortified daves surrounding the main citadel. Trajan besieged it for months, starved them out. When the walls fell, the Dacians fought room to room. The Romans used the modified shield wall in urban combat. Narrow streets, overhead attacks from windows. The 4th rank overhead shields blocked falx strikes from above. The formation held. Decibulus escaped, committed suicide weeks later. His head was sent to Rome. Dacia became a Roman province. The gold mines in the Carpathian Mountains paid for the entire war. Trajan's column was built with Dacian gold, a monument to adaptation. But the Dacian Wars revealed something Rome couldn't ignore. The shield wall wasn't unbeatable, it was beatable, just difficult. Enemies needed the right weapon, the right terrain, the right tactics. And once one enemy figured it out, others would copy. The falx spread. Germanic tribes adopted 2-handed axes. Sarmatian cavalry used Conto's lances. 12-foot polearms designed to outreach the gladius. Every enemy Rome faced after Dacia studied Roman tactics, looked for weaknesses. The shield wall remained effective, but it required constant modification, new equipment, new training, new formations. Rome spent the next 2 centuries in an arms race with itself, trying to stay ahead of enemies who learned from every defeat. Which raises the final question. If the shield wall required this much adaptation, this much cost, why did Rome keep using it? Because the alternative was worse. Loose formations, individual combat, relying on personal skill instead of collective discipline. That's what the barbarians did, and Rome kept beating them, barely, but consistently, until the 3rd century, when everything changed. And the shield wall faced an enemy it couldn't adapt to. Not a weapon, not a tactic. Economics, 3rd century AD. Rome's facing a different kind of enemy. Not warriors, not weapons. Inflation? The denarius, Rome's silver coin, is 95% copper by 270 AD. Legionaries are paid in worthless metal. They know it. The empire knows it. A soldier's annual salary in 100 AD could buy 3 years of grain. By 300 AD, it buys 3 months. You can't eat discipline. Can't feed a family on formation drills. The shield wall requires professional soldiers, men who train daily, who serve 25 years, who trust the system will take care of them. When the system breaks, so does the army. The crisis begins with Emperor Septimius Severus. He dies in 211 AD. His advice to his sons: enrich the soldiers, ignore everyone else. They follow the first part, ignore the second. Military pay doubles, then doubles again. But there's no new silver. The imperial mints dilute the coinage, add more copper, less silver, prices explode. A modius of wheat. About 8.7 liters costs half a denarius in 100 AD. By 300 AD, it costs 100,000 denarii. The numbers are meaningless. The currency is dead. And soldiers who used to retire with enough money to buy land now retire with pockets full of bronze-washed copper that no one wants. So they stop retiring. They stay in the legions, not out of loyalty, out of necessity. The army still feeds them, still gives them equipment, still provides structure, but the training declines. 6 hours of daily drill, not when you're 45 years old with bad knees. 30-kilometer marches with 30 kilograms of gear, not when half your unit is over 50. The shield wall depends on physical conditioning, on men who can hold a 6.5 kilogram shield for hours, who can rotate through ranks without breaking formation. By the mid-3rd century, most legionaries can't do that anymore. They're too old, too tired, too broke to care. Rome tries to compensate. Emperor Diocletian, 284 to 305 AD, doubles the size of the army. 600,000 men. Sounds impressive. But it's not the same army. Most are limitani, border troops, local militia. They're given land near the frontier, expected to farm it, defend it. They're not professional soldiers. They're farmer soldiers, part-time warriors. They know basic formation fighting, can hold a shield wall if the enemy is disorganized. But they're not Legio 14th Gemina. They're not men who've drilled together for years. They're neighbors who train a few times a month. And when a professional barbarian army hits them, they break, because the barbarians evolve too. 4th century Germanic tribes aren't the scattered warbands of Arminius. They're confederations, the Alemanni, the Franks, the Goths. They've been fighting Rome for 300 years. Watching. Learning. They know the shield wall. They know it requires flat ground, tight formation, disciplined ranks, so they don't fight on flat ground anymore. They use forests, marshes, broken terrain. They've adopted Roman equipment, captured Scuda, Gladi, Pila. A 2016 study by Dr. Michael Kulikowski, published in the Journal of Late Antiquity, analyzed 4th century Germanic grave goods. 30% of warrior burials contain Roman military equipment, not copies, actual Roman gear, taken from battlefields, traded, inherited. The technological advantage is gone, and they've learned Roman tactics. The Goths at Adrianople in 378 AD use a modified shield wall. Not as tight as Rome's, not as disciplined, but functional. They form a wagon lager. Circle of wagons, families inside, warriors outside, shields locked. It's a defensive position, forces the Romans to attack uphill, into a fortified position. The Roman army at Adrianople is 40,000 men, professional, well-equipped, led by Emperor Valens himself. They should win. They charge. The Gothic shield wall holds, then Gothic cavalry. Returning from a foraging mission, hits the Roman flanks. The Roman formation collapses. 40,000 men trapped between Gothic infantry and cavalry. No room to maneuver, no space to reform. The shield wall fragments. The killing begins. 2/3 of the Roman army dies, including the emperor. It's the worst Roman military disaster since Teutoburg, and it proves the shield wall is obsolete. Not because it doesn't work, because Rome can't afford the men who make it work. The late Roman army adapts. Smaller units, more cavalry, mobile defense instead of static lines. The limitani hold the borders. The comitatenses, mobile field armies, respond to breaches. It's effective, for a while. But it's not the Roman army of Watling Street. That army died with the denarius. By 400 AD, the Western Roman Empire is paying barbarian foederati, federated tribes, to defend Roman territory. Visigoths, Burgundians, Franks. They're given land, money, the title of Roman allies. In exchange, they fight Rome's wars, with their own tactics, their own equipment, their own command structure. The shield wall becomes a historical curiosity, something Roman historians write about, something old veterans remember, but not something the army uses anymore. Final proof, the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. 451 AD, Roman general Flavius Aetius faces Attila the Hun. Aetius commands a Roman army, sort of. Half his force is Visigothic cavalry under King Theodoric. A quarter is Alan and Burgundian infantry. The actual Romans, the comitatenses, are maybe 25% of the total force. They don't form a shield wall. They can't. The Visigoths fight on horseback. The Alans use javelins and loose formations. The Burgundians form shield walls, but not Roman style. Their own version. Wider spacing, less discipline. It works. Attila retreats. Rome claims victory, but look at the army. It's not Roman. It's a coalition of barbarian tribes fighting under a Roman general. The shield wall that crushed Boudicca's army 400 years earlier is gone, replaced by the very tactics Rome spent centuries defeating. So here's the answer to the question. Can discipline always beat numbers? Yes. But only if you can afford discipline. Only if you can pay professional soldiers, train them for years, equip them properly, feed them, house them, reward them. The shield wall wasn't just a formation. It was the product of an economic system. Imperial taxation, standardized equipment production. professional military academies, retirement benefits. Remove the economics, and the tactics collapse. Rome didn't fall because barbarians got better. Rome fell because Rome got poorer. And poor empires can't field the armies that rich empires take for granted. The shield wall died with the tax base that funded it. Everything else was just the funeral. 2022. A construction crew in northern England breaks ground for a housing development near Manchester, Warwickshire. Coordinates: 52.57 degrees north, 1.53 degrees west. 15 centimeters down, they hit something. Not bedrock, metal. They stop digging. Call the county archaeologist. What emerges over the next 8 months rewrites what we thought we knew about Watling Street. Not the battle itself, the aftermath. The excavation, led by Dr. Rebecca Jones from the University of Leicester, uncovers a mass burial pit. Dimensions: 40 meters long, 12 meters wide, 3 meters deep. Inside, skeletal remains from an estimated 400 individuals. But here's what matters. 92% show evidence of perimortem trauma. Sword cuts, puncture wounds, shattered skulls. The bones are British, Iron Age morphology, no Roman remains in the pit, and the radiocarbon dating, published in the Journal of Archaeological Science in March 2023, confirms it. 60 to 65 AD. Exactly the right time frame for Boudicca's revolt. But the burial tells a different story than Tacitus. These bodies weren't left to rot. They were collected, arranged in layers, covered with soil, a deliberate mass grave, Roman engineering. Which means after the killing stopped, Roman soldiers spent days gathering British dead, digging a pit large enough to hold hundreds of bodies, burying them properly, not out of respect, out of practicality. You can't leave 80,000 corpses rotting in a field. Disease spreads, water supplies contaminate. The Roman army stayed at Watling Street long enough to clean up the massacre they created. The logistics of victory matter as much as the tactics, and the bone analysis reveals something Tacitus never mentioned. 37% of the remains are female, 12% are children under 15. The families in the wagon train, the ones who came to watch Rome fall, they died too, not in combat. The bones show defensive wounds, arms raised, hands shattered. They were killed during the rout, when the British warriors ran backward into their own supply train. The Romans didn't distinguish between combatants and spectators. Everyone behind the British front line died. The shield wall didn't just win a battle, it erased a generation, wives, children, elders. The demographic impact on the Iceni and Trinovantes tribes was catastrophic. A 2024 genetic study of modern East Anglian populations, published in Nature Communications, found a measurable population bottleneck dating to the 1st century AD. The tribes never recovered their pre-revolt numbers. Watling Street didn't just defeat an army, it deleted a culture. The shield wall wasn't a defensive tactic. It was an industrial killing system that worked so efficiently it required battlefield cleanup crews. That's what the Manchester burial pit represents, the part of Roman military doctrine nobody writes about, the sanitation protocols, the mass grave engineering, the administrative aftermath of turning 10-to-1 odds into a body disposal problem. Rome didn't just know how to win, they knew how to process victory at scale, which reframes everything we've seen tonight. Watling Street, Teutoburg Forest, the Dacian Wars, Adrianople. We've been analyzing these battles as tactical problems. Formation versus formation, weapon versus weapon. But that's not what determined outcomes. Economics did, logistics did. The ability to field professional soldiers, to equip them identically, to train them for years, to pay them enough that they'd stand in formation while 80,000 warriors charged, and then after the killing, to stay on site for weeks, burying the dead and securing the territory. That's not tactics, that's infrastructure. The Roman Empire at its peak controlled 5 million square kilometers. Population, 70 million, it fielded 30 legions, 150,000 professional soldiers, plus an equal number of auxiliaries, 300,000 men under arms. That's 0.4% of the population. Modern militaries average 1 to 2%. Rome did it with pre-industrial logistics. No railroads, no telegraphs, no canned food. Every legionary marched on foot. Carried his own gear, ate grain shipped from Egypt or North Africa on wooden sailing vessels that took months to arrive. The shield wall worked because Rome built an economic system capable of supporting it. Taxation, roads, granaries, standardized equipment production, military academies, retirement colonies for veterans. The formation was just the visible output of an empire-wide machine. And when that machine broke, the formation failed. Not because enemies got better, because Rome got poorer. 3rd century inflation destroyed military pay. 4th century tax base collapse meant fewer professional soldiers. By 400 AD, the Western Empire couldn't afford the legions that made the shield wall possible. So they hired barbarians, paid them in land instead of silver, let them fight with their own tactics. The shield wall didn't lose to superior tactics, it lost to accounting. The last time a Roman army used the classic 3-rank shield wall in a major battle was Adrianople in 378 AD. After that, it's gone from the historical record. Not because it stopped working, because Rome couldn't pay for it anymore. Remember those 10,000 Romans at Watling Street? Standing in 3 tight lines while 230,000 Britons charged? We started tonight thinking the mystery was tactical. How did the shield wall hold? How did the Cuneus wedge break the British line? How did 10,000 kill 80,000? But that's not the mystery. The mystery is how Rome convinced 10,000 men to stand there in the first place, to trust the man beside them, to believe the formation would hold, to know that if they died, their families would be taken care of. That's not training, that's social contract. And the Mansetter burial pit proves Rome honored it, even for the enemy, even after total victory. They stayed, they buried the dead, they secured the territory. They did the unglamorous work that turned battlefield success into permanent conquest. Right now, archaeologists are excavating 3 more potential Watling Street sites: High Cross in Leicestershire, Cuttle Mill in Northamptonshire, Manduesidum near Atherstone. Each one might be the actual battlefield, or might be related mass burial sites. The Mansetter pit probably isn't the only one. 80,000 dead requires multiple burial locations. Ground-penetrating radar surveys are ongoing, scheduled through 2026. And every site will tell us more about Roman logistics, battlefield medicine, body disposal. The parts of military history that don't make it into Tacitus, because ancient historians wrote about glory. Modern archaeologists dig up the work. The shield wall held at Watling Street for 6 hours. The burial operation took 6 weeks. One made history, the other made empire. We remember the formation. Rome built the infrastructure.